This is the anatomy of a $500 million dilemma. A nation invests public funds to secure the future of its auto industry, and in return, it's handed a plan to simply assemble pre-packaged car kits from China. That was the core of the proposal from auto giant Stellantis for its Brampton plant. The Canadian government's response was a rare, unambiguous rejection. As the industry minister stated, "We can't bring cars in a kit to Canada. It needs to support the local supply chain." This public refusal is not a political outburst. It signals a fundamental shift in Canada's industrial strategy. This video will unpack the precise economic and geopolitical calculus behind that decision. But to truly grasp the strategy, you must first measure the stakes. We have to go back to the original promise. What exactly was on the line? What was on the line was what was supposed to be a textbook example of modern industrial partnership. To understand the magnitude of Stellantis' later decision, you have to first look at the deal they were walking away from. This wasn't just another corporate subsidy. It was hailed as a landmark agreement between the Canadian government and the automotive giant, specifically designed to secure the future of manufacturing in Brampton, Ontario. The federal government committed up to $529 million through its Strategic Innovation Fund to help Stellantis retool its plants for the electric vehicle transition. But let's be perfectly clear, this was not a gift. It was a hard-nosed investment with taxpayer money, anchored by strict, legally binding conditions. The core of the 2022 agreement contractually obligated Stellantis to two critical deliverables in exchange for that public capital. First, it had to keep the Brampton plant operational until at least 2035. Second, it had to maintain an average national employment level of approximately 4,175 full-time, high-skill Canadian jobs. These weren't suggestions. They were the legal foundation of the entire partnership. The board was set. A binding agreement, a massive public investment, and a guaranteed decade of high-value manufacturing and employment for an entire community. It was a solid strategic plan. But a single decision, formulated in a boardroom thousands of miles away, was about to send a shockwave through this entire arrangement, threatening to shatter the very foundation of the deal. That single decision was the imposition of a 25% tariff on Canadian-made automobiles by the Trump administration. This one policy move, a geopolitical shockwave, instantly shattered the economic logic underpinning the entire 2022 agreement. To understand its effect, imagine every single vehicle rolling off the Brampton assembly line suddenly had an invisible 25% tax added to its price the moment it crossed into the massive US market. The Canadian factory didn't get worse. The workers didn't become less efficient. The finish line in the economic race was simply moved a quarter of the way further down the track, making it impossible to win from that starting position. It is critical to be precise here. This was not a failure of Canadian industry. It was not about high labor costs. It was not about union intransigence. And it was not about a lack of productivity. This was a purely financial calculation, forced by a trade war between two of the world's most integrated economies. It was a corporate response to a sovereign policy shock. And the response was swift. In October 2025, Stellantis announced it was moving production of the next generation Jeep Compass from its taxpayer-backed plant in Brampton, Ontario, to its plant in Belvidere, Illinois. So, with a publicly funded plant suddenly sitting idle because of a geopolitical dispute, Stellantis came back to the table. But the solution they proposed wasn't a solution at all. It was a Trojan Horse. What was inside? Inside was a plan that fundamentally redefined the meaning of manufacturing for Canada. Stellantis proposed using what are called knockdown kits from its new partner in China, Leapmotor. This meant the most complex, skill-intensive, and valuable parts of the vehicle would arrive already built. The engineered body, the multi-stage paint job, the complete interior, and the entire powertrain. All of it would be assembled in China and shipped across the ocean. To put this in perspective, think of it this way. Real automotive manufacturing is like designing and building a house from the ground up, pouring the foundation, framing the structure, wiring the electrical systems. The knockdown kit plan was the equivalent of being handed a fully built, prefabricated house and only being asked to screw in the light bulbs. The Canadian plant, once a hub of comprehensive production, would be demoted to a low-skill, final assembly checkpoint for minimal tasks like attaching wheels and doors. The economic consequences of this were staggering. The Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, or APMA, calculated the difference. A full, legitimate manufacturing operation would source approximately $3 billion from Canadian suppliers, supporting around 12,000 jobs. The knockdown kit proposal, by contrast, would source only $25 million and support a mere 300 jobs. The economic contribution is over 100 times smaller. This isn't a minor detail. This is the very definition of value hollowing. That is not manufacturing. It is, quite simply, outsourcing disguised as investment, a process that turns a sovereign factory into a final checkpoint for a vehicle built somewhere else. So, faced with this Trojan Horse, this elegant, almost insulting attempt to hollow out a taxpayer-funded facility, how did Canada respond? Did the federal and provincial governments accept this diminished role with quiet desperation? Or did they, together, draw a clear, unified line in the sand? Faced with this hollowed-out offer, Canada did not respond with quiet desperation. Instead, the country delivered a swift, unified, and public rejection that echoed across the political spectrum. The alignment was immediate and unambiguous. From Ottawa, Federal Industry Minister Melanie Joly stated it plainly: "We can't bring cars in a kit to Canada." This was instantly echoed at the provincial level by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who added, "If they're bringing kits over made in China, all that does is undermine every single auto worker we have in Ontario." In a country often defined by its regional and political divisions, this was a rare moment of absolute strategic consensus. The message was identical. This is not real manufacturing, and it is not acceptable. This political resolve was anchored by the people whose futures were on the line. The powerful Unifor Union, representing the auto workers, cut through the corporate jargon. They warned that accepting this deal meant trading tens of thousands of high-skill manufacturing and local parts supplier roles for a few hundred low-skill assembly positions. This was bigger than one factory. It was about drawing a clear line in the sand, a precedent to protect the future of the entire Canadian industrial ecosystem. So, Canada drew its line. Was this a necessary stand for our industrial future, or a risky gamble in a global market? Let me know if you see this as a necessary stand or a risky gamble in the comments. And this act of unified defiance brings us back to the single most important question of this entire story. In a world where multinational corporations hold immense power, how could a country like Canada possibly afford to say no? So let's connect the dots of the investigation so far. A $500 million public investment was made to secure a manufacturing future. An external tariff from a key trading partner shattered the economics of that deal. A hollowed-out offer was then proposed, substituting real value with a low-grade assembly line. And in response, Canada, from its federal ministers to its provincial premiers and unions, delivered a unified and unequivocal no. This sequence of events leads us beyond the headlines. The critical question isn't just that Canada said no. The real question is how it could possibly afford to. Rejecting a deal from a global giant like Stellantis and risking an empty factory seems like an act of profound economic vulnerability. But this is where the deeper layer of the game emerges. The answer reveals that this wasn't an act of desperation. It was a calculated move based on quiet, multifaceted, and intelligently deployed strategic leverage. That leverage isn't found in political posturing or press releases. It's rooted in the quiet, indispensable flows that bind our economy to the United States. To understand how Canada could make this move, we must first map this deep integration, starting with the two most powerful currents, trade and energy. Let's begin with the first of these powerful currents, trade. The common narrative often frames Canada as a dependent junior partner. The data, however, tells a story of deep structural interdependence. In 2025 alone, the total goods trade between our two countries reached a staggering $719.5 billion. This figure isn't just about Canada selling resources. The critical insight is that for the majority of American states, Canada is consistently one of their top 3 export markets. Our economic health is therefore directly wired into American jobs and prosperity. This creates a massive, pulsing economic artery connecting the two nations. A disruption on one side causes an immediate blockage on the other. Now, if trade is the artery, then energy is the geostrategic bedrock. In a volatile world, Canada functions as the single largest, most stable, and most secure supplier of foreign energy to the United States. This isn't a minor detail. It is a cornerstone of American energy security. Let's look at the numbers. In 2025, Canada supplied approximately 60% of all U.S. crude oil imports. That's an average of over 4 million barrels every single day. To put that in perspective, that volume is more than all OPEC nations combined. Crucially, this energy arrives through secure, integrated pipelines, not across vulnerable sea lanes subject to geopolitical choke points. This stability is not a mere convenience for the United States. It is a core strategic asset. But these immense flows are only half of the equation. Canada's true strategic weight is anchored by 2 foundational pillars that are even quieter and arguably more powerful. Those 2 foundational pillars are capital and resources. First, there is the quiet, immense power of Canadian capital. Beyond the daily headlines, giant Canadian pension funds like the CPP and OMERS have become one of the largest and most stable sources of foreign investment inside the United States. We're not talking about volatile, hot money that flees at the first sign of trouble. This is patient, long-term capital that underwrites American growth. As of 2022, the total stock of Canadian direct investment in the U.S. stood at $683 billion, funding critical American infrastructure, real estate, and major industries. This financial integration weaves Canada into the very fabric of the U.S. economy in a way that is deep, structural, and not easily replaced. Equally foundational is Canada's role as a resource superpower, but with a critical 21st century update. In a world defined by strategic competition, a nation's mineral wealth is no longer a footnote. It's a core strategic asset. The best way to understand this is to picture the American high-tech industrial base as a factory. For decades, it sourced its materials from a massive global supermarket, with China being the largest aisle. But when that supermarket becomes unreliable or even hostile, its importance plummets. Suddenly, the secure 5-star pantry right next door becomes an invaluable strategic advantage. That pantry is Canada. Under the Canada-US Joint Action Plan on Critical Minerals, we are the key partner for supplying the nickel, cobalt, copper, and lithium essential for everything from EV batteries to advanced defense technology. This is how the United States de-risks its most vital supply chains away from geopolitical rivals. So the arsenal is now clear. Trade, energy, capital, and minerals. We have the leverage. But the critical question remains. How does a new Canadian playbook weave all these threads together to enforce real manufacturing on our own terms? And that question brings us to the final crucial insight. The rejection of the Stellantis deal was not just a defensive reaction against a corporation breaking its promises. It was the public debut of a new, proactive Canadian playbook for the 21st century. This playbook uses our asymmetric leverage, the indispensable resources, energy, and capital we've mapped out to enforce a new non-negotiable rule for foreign investment. The rule is simple. Public support is conditional on building a high-value, fully integrated supply chain inside Canada, not just a low-skill assembly line at the end of a global chain. Think of it as a credible commitment signal sent to every global boardroom. Superficial investments, the so-called knockdown kits, where value is created elsewhere, will be rejected. Subsidies for such projects will be clawed back. But for those willing to make full chain commitments that strengthen our domestic auto parts sector and create high-value jobs, Canada will unlock public funds and grant preferential access to the entire USMCA market. This is where the true strategic brilliance emerges. The new playbook is a masterful synthesis of policy. It links geopolitics with trade law. It leverages the fine print of agreements like the USMCA, specifically its rule demanding 75% of a vehicle's value originate in North America, to convert our static mineral wealth into the dynamic power to attract quality manufacturing. This isn't about closing our borders or retreating from global trade. It is about deepening integration, but this time on our own terms. We are using the very rules of globalization to fight the hollowing out effects of globalization. By controlling the raw materials essential for America's strategic goals and by holding the keys to its most vital market, Canada gains the power to dictate the quality and depth of the investment it accepts. The Stellantis saga then must be seen in this new light. It is not a story of industrial decline. It is a masterclass in how a strategic middle power can defend its sovereignty and secure its industrial future. It's proof that we possess the tools to shape our destiny in a turbulent world. In the end, this entire geopolitical thriller comes down to one principle Canada refused to sacrifice: that modern manufacturing is defined not by where a product is assembled, but by where its value is created. The mainstream headlines will move on. But if you want to keep understanding the real game being played, the strategic moves shaping Canada's future, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The deeper layer is always where the real story is.